We're in July and it's the month you can finally go plastic free, a journey in itself. Ever since its introduction, plastic became a matter of convenience. People opted for something light, cheap, and flexible. But with the growing use of a material that is non perishable and non compostable, we soon had a big problem on our hands. Plastic Free July is a growing movement of the Plastic Free Foundation. Since 2011, the movement aims at reaching different people from different walks of life, from consumer to local authorities. We are all being urged to give up on our plastic addiction. It is an absolute pleasure and honor to welcome today Ms Rebecca Prince Ruiz, the founder of Plastic Free Foundation and growing movement Plastic Free July. Since 2011, we are now celebrating its 10th anniversary. Ms. Ruiz, it's a pleasure. Thank you for being with us. Having engaged more than millions of people globally to go plastic free, celebrating this year the 10th anniversary of Plastic Free Foundation, an active commitment for a world free of plastic pollution, and recently a book, how are you feeling?
Oh, look, I'm feeling absolutely delighted to be on this call and to be part of this movement of people from all around the world who have taken on the Plastic Free July Challenge and are doing something in their daily lives, where they live, with what they can do, what their circumstances are. That's never been so different as it between us all as it is at the moment, as we all facing this challenges of the pandemic. And I feel like I'm just so privileged to be a part of it, and every day get great stories of what people have done, the changes that they've been making in their own lives to reduce and refuse single-use plastic, and then also take those changes into their workplaces, into their communities, into their children's schools, and really make a difference. And I think it's a really a great example of a grassroots movement that we can all participate in, and by lots of people making small changes, it can add up to make a big difference.
The Plastic Free July started after you visited a recycling facility. Would you share your story of how you got engaged into fighting the plastic pollution problem?
Yeah, so I think I've always felt like I've been quite environmentally aware and sustainably minded. But for me, this journey really started when I visited a recycling facility and I saw for the first time where my waste went when I threw it away. And I mean, I knew what my waste looked like, but when I saw my waste with my neighbour's waste and everyone else in my street and my suburb, I was really overwhelmed by just how much there was, and understanding the complex process that was required to sort it into paper and plastic and metal and glass, and then to bale it up and to ship it to where it was going to be recycled. And I suddenly realized that whilst of course recycling is important, we know there's lots of challenges with recycling more now than ever, but the best and most important thing that we can do to make a difference is to reduce our waste, to refuse to reuse, and recycling should be our last resort. And so that was back in June 2011, and I made a decision that night that I was going to try and reduce and avoid single-use plastic the following month, which just happened to be July. And there were my two colleagues from work and about 40 of our volunteers, and we just set out to change ourselves and make a difference. And it's really grown virally through then, through conversations, through those activities in communities as people took it beyond their own lives, and through social media as people and groups around the world started joining in and taking action on what is a very shared concern, the plastic pollution problem.
For sure. We share almost the same story about just having a trigger and make us realize where our waste is going and what we are consuming. I had the same epiphany after realizing that I was using way too much plastic bottles. When it comes to plastic and your own journey and personal experience, what are the most common misperceptions about going plastic free that people do have?
So I think, well, and I don't think the movement has kind of helped in this. I think one of the common, I think we've got a problem with the name, like plastic free. It's kind of impossible. Like I'm sitting in my car, there's plastic here. I'm talking to you through my phone, there's plastic in that. It's a useful material. The challenge is the fact that we're using so much of it, a material that's designed to last forever for just a few minutes or a few seconds, and then we throw it away, and our recycling rates are very, very low. And so I guess one of the misperceptions that people have is that they have to do everything. They have to avoid all plastic, or they have to be perfect. Whereas for me, Plastic Free July is not about doing everything, and literally there's only a very few people that can really be perfect, but it's about lots of people not being perfect, but just choosing one or two things that you can reduce and refuse, forming new habits, learning new skills, finding alternatives for those materials, learning to go without, and then taking on something else. So it's about the journey. It's not about perfection. So I think that's the kind of common perception or myth that I'd like to dispel.
I love how you use the word journey when talking about plastic free. It's the fourth year that Mauritius is engaging itself into going plastic free. What would be your best advice for people just starting off on this journey right now?
So people are starting out on the journey. I say join the challenge. Sign up at plasticfreejuly.org. It's never too late. I always say the best day to start is today. So, and then, because then you not only get lots of tips and ideas, but you're not doing it alone. So you're doing it with others, and that's really helpful to do it in a supportive way. And you get to read lots of stories and ideas of how to do it. So it's very practical. And just choose one or two things. Look at the plastic in your life. Look in your bin. Look in your kitchen. And because, Siddhartha, probably here in Fremantle in Western Australia probably might be different to the plastics that are in your life. We have different options and opportunities in depending on where we live. And I find by just choosing one or two things and making new habits, then you feel, rather than trying to do everything at once, because you're very unlikely to succeed, and failure doesn't feel great, and you just give up and think it's too hard. So start simple and go easy on yourself as well. It's not a competition, and you're not in it alone.
For sure. And you speak of the element of community that is so important while journeying into the plastic free movement. Starting off with you and your colleagues, how do you feel now having millions of people going plastic free and finding so many people joining the community?
Yeah, I feel I'm the luckiest person in the world, because I get to read stories from people like you, from people all over the world about what they're doing and how they're making a difference. So no one is more surprised than me that it would ever have grown this big. But it's really, if I'm just so conscious of the fact that if other people hadn't said yes and taken this on, then it would still be just me and my family of 5 making a difference. So I'm just so proud of everybody who has has done it. It's not always easy. It takes some work. Sometimes it costs more. Sometimes it pushes us out of our comfort zones. But there's so many rewards to it, and people feel good about making a difference and together working towards a cleaner environment, because that's what we all want.
Thank you. Spinning off from that, that would be the last question I do have. Do you believe we can get rid of single-use plastic totally?
Oh, that's a hard question. I don't think we can in the current way that we're using it, where producers and manufacturers have no obligation to use recycled plastic. It's cheaper and easier for them to use virgin plastics, to use new plastic, than it is to use recycled content. It's more difficult to use that, and it's more expensive. So unless our governments put in schemes and regulations to require them to be responsible for those products, not just till the point of sale, but for the lifetime of that, and then to be thinking about the second lifetime and the third use. Until we're at that point, whether that's through legislation, whether that's through a tax on plastic, I think we are going to keep using it in a single-use way. And I think behaviour change and us taking responsibility individually is important, but there's no silver bullet. So we need our governments to put in the right legislation, and we need businesses to take responsibility for their packaging, because at the moment they're not paying it. It's cheap, but they're not paying the true cost. That's been borne by our communities. It's been borne by the people who are out there cleaning up, and it's been borne by our environment and our wildlife. So I would like to see no material, whether it's plastic or otherwise, being used just once. That's wasteful. That is not a good use of our resources. We should be using everything in a circular fashion, and it's going to take some time, but it's taken the last 50 years to get to this point, and we can't expect to change things overnight.
So definitely, packaging has been one of the most I saw in our environment. And going plastic free, we then tend to see more packaging being in plastic than anything else. Thank you so much for being with us for this small conversation. It's been a pleasure being able to join the Plastic Free July and the movement. I hope everyone watching this video would be inspired by your growing movement and joining the community. We are 20 days in the challenge. People can still sign up for the Plastic Free Challenge on the website. Ms. Rebecca, thank you so much for this conversation. I'm very grateful for your contribution.
Oh, look, thank you very much for inviting me. I enjoyed our conversation very much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. If you're in Mauritius, there is an event called Mauritius Goes Plastic Free 2020 on our Facebook. There's a community called Plastic Free Journey Mauritius. We are on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can follow us. And we have a few more things coming up. All those details will be in the description box below. Thank you for watching. And until the next time, I hope you stay as plastic free as possible.